Good morning. My name is Václav Šebek, and I'm a moderator of the first panel. We are starting practically on time, so I would like to welcome all the speakers. Please come here to the front in order to resemble a panel, really. And Diana, you may go right to the computer. Now we will talk we will tackle more in detail the topics that were just opened in the beginning. And first, we will Jan Maygar of Slovak Energy Innovation Agency will start the panel talking about about the cooperation with the streamSAVE project from the point of view of the member state. So what did they get? How did they use it? And we will continue with the more in-depth discussion, more in-depth presentation of the part of the DEESME project by Antoine Durand of Fraunhofer. Then we will quickly hop to Croatia with Vesna Bukarica of National Energy Institute. And finally, we will move to Ireland and look also on the implementation of energy efficiency directive with Aidan Condell. So that's all for the beginning, and Jan, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So my presentation give you any kind of example from Slovakia, how we use the streamSAVE results. And so my presentation is giving you a SIEA content, something about the energy efficiency monitoring at national level, how we feel the streamSAVE project from our Slovak perspective, and some lessons learned. Regarding the SIEA content, the SIEA is a Slovak a national energy agency. We are covering three areas: the energy area, the financing, it means support programs from the EU structural funds, and innovations. Regarding the energy part, we are preparing the documents for the energy legislation, the strategic and program documents, the financing background documents for the projects that are contributing to the result of the integrated national energy and climate plan. The other workflow is going to monitoring and evaluation of the energy efficiency and the use of renewable energy sources, and the SEAI is a operator of the energy efficiency monitoring system. We are doing the education and examinations for more than 14 groups of the energy specialists. And of course, we are working at the area of project and support programs regarding the renewables, like Green for Households program, National Project Expansion of Energy Efficiency Monitoring, National Project Energy Professionally for these energy professionals. We are also covering the guaranteed energy services in the public sector, information campaigns to National Project Lead by Energy, and of course international projects. As a background for all these activities, of course, the monitoring and the evaluation of the policies is really needed. So there is a demand for energy efficiency monitoring at our national level. There are these increasing targets in the area of energy savings, and classical policies or measures are slowly being exhausted. So there is a need for the new energy efficiency policies and measures. And of course, therefore, it's needed a substantiated determination calculation of the corresponding savings as a bottom-up approach. I want to stress this one, the word substantiated. There are the questions: how to calculate it in a harmonized way for reporting for the Commission. There should be some additional questions from the point of the view of the Commission, and where to find the additional energy savings. Just now we are moving more to the not traditional energy saving measures or areas like transport, air mobility, heat pumps, energy poverty, behavior change, which are challenging a bit, because normally we didn't evaluate such kind of policies. So these approaches are needed. From this point of view, there is a really value added from the streamSAVE. From our perspective, of course, the list is non-exhaustive. First of all, necessary to say that the streamSAVE provided us a list of 10 priority actions which were previously unexploited. And of course, what is more important is that there is an in-depth analysis of evaluation and calculation methodologies, which are helping effectively implement, monitor, and redesign policies under Energy Efficiency Directive Articles 3 and 7. And of course, it's an online platform helping exchange of knowledge and experience, what is really a benefit for users. Important thing is that there is a knowledge and support facility providing us evaluation calculation methodology made on a consensual basis. So there is any kind of, let's say, harmonization, because the methodologies were discussed with different viewpoints by different professionals in the field. It's supported by analysis and report of existing methodologies in individual countries on individual priority actions, what is also time-consuming normally at the national level. And there are the practical guidance with explanations, presentations, and videos, what's important. And of course, the streamSAVE is providing us calculators and Excel sheets enabling to see impact of changing boundary conditions. What is also important in the creation and analyzing policies. One of the important things is also providing reference values at the EU level and at the national level, which enables us to have or to adjust the calculation procedures or see what happened when we change something in the calculation, what would be the impact. There is also the forum, what enables us to exchange the views, articles, contributions to discussions on targeted methodologies, and of course, the benefit was also the training, because there was a possibility for discussion and exchange of views on methodologies with their creators. So our people from the monitoring department were very happy that they were able to discuss with our Czech colleagues on some aspects of the individual methodologies. What we learn from the project? So there are some potential applications in Slovakia, for example. These knowledge base could be used sometimes as a reference values for the comparison and adjustment. For example, in our case, I'm directly involved in the Autism Europe project, and as you know, there is not only the let's say energy statistics and quite normal preparation of the energy efficiency indicators, but in the project we are using also the estimations for energy efficiency indicators. And for example, regarding the mobility as a background data, we use the comparison with the data of streamSAVE. like vehicle perimeters for different modes of transport and so on, regarding the personal cars, buses, and so on, because it enables us to let's say, to see the energy consumption of the whole car park in more detail. So there's still the possibility to have a discussion on methodologies and boundary conditions for the values, and to discuss the limitations of methodologies and such kind of areas. Most important part of the lessons learned is that in the monitoring system there was a possibility or discussed possibility that update of national catalog of energy efficiency measures and methodologies for calculation of savings, because this part of the monitoring system is important for reporting of energy savings. Just now we are talking about the reporting of the national energy and climate plans. So when we look to the new potential policies and measures which could reduce the gap between the target and the reality, so it's one of the possibilities how to find out and analyze the existing calculation methodologies, optimization of existing data collection, and cover new policies and measures, or discuss the limitations and conditions. What is very interesting is that normally these new policies like behavior change, e-mobility, electric vehicles and trucks, modal shifts. So we discussed the possibility to put in the national catalog the things related to electric vehicles and trucks. So we will see what will happen, because in the first round of the reporting, we didn't use these methodologies, but now we will finish the second one in the next year. So we will hope that we'll be able to discuss with the ministry that we will add these methodologies from the streamSAVE to our national catalog and implement it. And maybe on the other way around, it's not the question of the, let's say, to see the impact of the policies, but it's possible also use this methodology so in preparation or support of creation of new policies. For example, when we are talking about the replacement of electric motors in industry based from the energy audits, there is a possible to propose the creation of new targeted national policies. And for this creation, we need the definition of energy saving potential. And that's the area of the calculation methodology. And of course, as a result of this policy, there are energy savings and of course for the companies reduction of energy costs. The benefit is the increased competitiveness of these companies. And from the point of the state, the benefit is a reporting of savings. So there is a win-win situation for the stakeholders and for the state. The other possibilities, for example, application of heat pumps, means small and medium scale renewables in buildings. So that's also one of the priority areas which were covered by streamSAVE. So there is still a possibility to see the impact on savings and on infrastructure, possible to optimize or quasi-modelize the more boundary conditions and so on. So that's all from my side. So thank you for the attention, and I give it over to Václav.
Thank you very much for your presentation, and it's really good to hear that the work we have done in streamSAVE has been uptook. I would like to be very concise on time. We started a bit later. Are there any questions now, immediate questions from the audience to Jan's presentation? Okay, so let's at least.
Yeah, quick one regarding the external boundary conditions that we have taken into account for the electric moisture completely. I guess they were beyond the meter, such as the optimization of local consumption of easy.
Normally we use the calculations which are written in the streamSAVE. So these methodologies are there. So we use the data which are written there. It means the default values and some national values. So it's possible, let's say, to see directly when we change the input values, what would be the real impact from this point. So that's one of the benefits which we are using in the creation of an adaptation of the existing methodologies once.
Okay, thank you. In case there are no more questions, I would like to continue now, and maybe if you come up with another question on Jan, please keep it to the end. And technically, we are streamed via MS Teams. So please, for any questions from the auditorium, we will give you a mic, and also for the answer to panelists, also on mic, because otherwise we are off record. Okay, so please, the floor is yours.
Good morning. My name is Antoine Durand. I'm from Fraunhofer ISI. And I will do a presentation on DEESME, but from the policy implementer side, because as Ivana mentioned before, we had two parts for DEESME. We had one part for companies, but also one part for the national authorities. As you may know, I hope so, that in the current ED, we have the Article 8 with the energy obligation for energy audit obligation for non-SMEs. Non-SMEs are defined as companies having more than 250 people in staff, and also there are some criteria regarding turnover or the balance sheet. And also, if a company has already implemented an EMS, an energy management system, it is not obligated to have an energy audit. And in the project, we wanted to enable national authorities to enhance the impact of this obligation in the DEESME project, but also on all the obligations which are in the Article 8 of the current ED. For that, we had a two-step approach. In the first step, we looked at the challenges that are facing the national authorities in implementing the Article 8, and we had some interviews and survey of national authorities in few selected member states. And then we could identify 11 challenges. Few were dedicated to non-SMEs, like limited resources for the transposition, like issue with selecting the obligated companies and so on. I will go later on that. And also we had some specific challenges for the SMEs because we have not the same requirements and also the companies are different. In the second step, we tried to gather the experience of all national authorities and the EU regarding these 11 challenges. And we carried out interviews, we looked for reviews of documentation to really gather all the practices in all the member states and to show how the national authorities are dealing with the implementation and with all the challenges that were identified as important for the implementation. And we came out with a guideline summarizing the best practices in the member states. And we provided a guideline, a generic one that any country could use and read. But also for some partner countries, we provided dedicated guidelines for the national authorities. And if you open the link, you will get an access to the generic guideline, which is a nice document with around 100 pages, but not too much to read. It will be very useful for national authorities to look for solutions and practical ones. Now I would like to show some challenges that we had. I have no time to show all the challenges. That's why I'm just showing one or two challenges. The first one, which was raised, it's not a big surprise. I think it's regarding the identification of the obligated companies. And also I tried to pick out some challenges which might be useful also for the forthcoming ED and the new Article 11. So if we have, if we look at the challenge identification of obligated companies, of course, we had three main issues. And the first one is to identify the companies themselves. There are basically two approaches from the national authorities. One is active, where national authorities select themselves and list themselves the companies which are under the obligation. And then usually they have two different approaches there. First, they can use existing registers like commercial register or database from which are already public. But usually it was still not easy to find out which companies are matching or not to the SME criteria. Another way was to identify companies based on their own data collection. So the national authority decided to build up their own database of companies and to find out themselves which are the companies falling under the criteria. But some companies, some national authorities had another way. They decided to have a so-called, I would say, passive approach, where they didn't try out to identify the companies, but the company had themselves to self-declare and to say, oh, hi, I'm not an SME, I am falling under the obligation. And for that, of course, you need much more awareness to make clear that there is an obligation coming and also what are the criteria. Also, we could see that some member states had some simplified criteria for the obligation, and it was based on energy consumption. So basically, if you had, so it's not possible to exclude a company because of the consumption, but you could have some simplified criteria. And many countries did that, and they had threshold between 50 megawatt hour per year to 1,000 megawatt hour per year. You had threshold below the threshold. You had some simplified reporting obligations. And also, we could see that other national authorities implemented an obligation which was going beyond the obligation of the Article 8. And for energy consuming companies, even if they were SME, if they were above a certain threshold, like in Bulgaria, there was an obligation to carry out an energy audit. But here also you have to inform the companies. And we could see also some interesting good practice examples. One of them was, for example, in Estonia, where there was an approach with some steps. First, the national authorities look at the public commercial register and filtered the company matching or not to the SME criteria. And they had then a so-called pre-listed list of companies, and the criteria were checked manually. So it was possible also because the country is not so large, and also they had enough capacity to start for that. And also, if some data were missing, which is happening from time to time, they tried to find out some information in on the website of the company or some other sources. And also, they had a list where all criteria could be checked, and also a list where you had only one or two criteria which were already checked. So that's why they could have they could pre-process already the list of companies obligated or not. And this list was published every year. And then the companies are informed by the authorities that they might be falling under the obligation of Article 8. After that, the companies are allowed to provide evidences that they are not SMEs, if it is the case. And if they don't provide the evidences, then they will be obligated to carry out the energy audit. That's the way Estonia is doing. It was very structured, and it was also very transparent, because not only the list, but also the methodology was online. It was very important to allow the companies which are not SMEs also to be able to say, okay, I'm not an SME, so please remove my name off the list. And also it's interesting because Estonia is working on using data from the electricity and gas provider. That might be very interesting, especially if in the context of the new Article 11 in the new ED, because we have this energy consumption threshold, And therefore, I think what Estonia is doing is really already anticipating what we will have in a few years. The second challenge was regarding the quality of the energy audits. And here we have three pillars where we can improve the quality of the audits. The first one is dealing with the quality of the auditors themselves. So, and here we could see also that we had a broad approach within the member states. Some member states have strict requirements and have also a certification requirement. So you can just carry out the energy audit for Article 8 only if you are a certified energy auditor. Some just ask for specialization. Also, you had also some approaches where the certification is time limited. You have to renew it and to show again that you are up to date. And also, many member states have a list of certified auditors online, which is also improving the quality because then it's and also facilitating the work for the industry. If they want to engage an auditor to carry out the energy audit. And also, we had an example from Denmark, I think, where also energy auditors abroad were allowed to come because if you fulfill some criteria, they could also get experience from auditors from UK, Sweden, and Germany, I think. After you have solved the issue of the quality of the auditors, you have to make sure that also it is well understood what has to be done in the energy audit. And here we have a different procedure, and therefore we had the possibility to have a clear description of what are the legal requirements. Also, member states had some guidelines to explain exactly what to do, how to do, and when to do it, and also provide templates, which is very important. Also, afterwards for the national authority, in order to check out all the data provided. And last pillar for the quality of the audit is, of course, the quality control of the reports. If you have the possibility to upload data or to put data on a website, of course, you can do some basic validation to check if the energy consumption might be out of the range or not, or if you had some typing issues. So if you have a website, it's really powerful to make some basic validation, but it's not enough. And you need also some spot check for the quality. And we could see that depending on the countries, we have between the 1% and 5% of the energy audit reports which were checked. And also to deal with the issue of the staff, we could see also that some member states decided to do not the work alone, and they had some subcontracts with companies in charge of doing the quality control of the audits. So that's mainly what I wanted to present to you today. I focus on two challenges only, but you can find on the guideline, which is online, the whole set of 11 challenges and look at the way to deal with them and what are the solutions, the practices in the EU, and also the good practices. And I think it will be pretty useful for many, even in the context of the new EU. Last but not least, now we are dealing with the last phase of the project. And for the support of the national authorities, we will use the material also to support in few countries the national authorities to deal with their practical issues. And I think Italy has already started. We will do it soon for Germany. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Antoine. Do we have a question or two right away from the audience? Or, yeah, please.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Quick question. You mentioned that some countries use their energy threshold instead of the size, and so that it will be the way forward. So let's say among the challenges that you have identified in the project, which ones would be the most critical for the new Article 8 or Article 11?
Now we will have to deal with two thresholds, not only one. And also, if you look carefully to the regulation, the company will have to inform the national authorities about regarding the energy consumption, but they will not. So my understanding is that they will not provide the energy consumption. If you read it strictly, they have to mention that they are above the 10 terajoule or above the 85 terajoule threshold. And the issue is that the regulation is not dealing with that. It's dealing about the average over the last 3 years. So still, we have a major improvement, but still the question on how to get information, how to evaluate this average will be still a bit challenging. I think it will provide some indication if we have some suspicious cases. So I guess to elaborate a kind of pre-list of suspicious companies, it will be extremely useful to have that, but it will not be enough to be completely in line with the regulations. Therefore, national authorities will have to find a way to get the full information. And also, what we could see from Estonia is that there are data. So data on energy is pretty are available, but it's a legal issue. Also in Germany, I think they wanted to get the data, but they have to change some legal regulations because it's not allowed to use directly the data. That is, I think, a challenge here.
I can imagine that identifying or sorting companies exactly on above or below the threshold line might be tricky. So thank you for this, and please, Vesna, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I have a really long title of my presentation, but bottom line is that I will try to present you today the issue of calculated data using bottom-up methods that we are used to with deemed savings and measured, or better to say, metered saving. So my name is Vesna. I come from Energy Institute Hrvoje Požar in Zagreb, Croatia. We are a public institute. We are not an agency, and we do not have a mandate to monitoring and verify energy savings. But still, as a public institute, we closely cooperate with our competent authority and actually do the work for them usually, or put the fire down. I think you know what I mean. Yeah. Anyhow, I will start with just a brief introduction on legal framework for energy efficiency and energy savings in Croatia, and we'll move to some examples of differences between savings determined in different phases, and well, conclude with some lessons learned, maybe. Yeah. So as in every other country, I think we have a law on energy efficiency. We have actually different versions of that law since 2008. Last amendments were done in 2021 to establish targets for the new period 2021-2030, especially related to Article 7 of the of course. But that legal changes also brought some changes in our regulation on monitoring and verification of energy savings. So we have a special piece of legislation on monitoring and verification, which establishes mandatory use of IT platform to calculate energy savings from individual projects. And also for obligated parties within EOS. That piece of legislation prescribes bottom-up methodologies for calculation of savings for 33, let's say, typical energy efficiency measures. Most of them are in the building sector, but we also have methodologies for transport measures, including some that I hope will no longer be valid, and for industry as well. But what I wanted to point out today is that since 2015, we have a regulation on energy management system in the public sector, which obligates public sector entities to monitor their energy consumption. And for monitoring that energy consumption, they should use IT system, IT platform again. Abbreviation here is EMIS, so Energy Management Information System. And this is very valuable source of data, as you will see from some examples. Our MIV system rests on this regulation. As I said, we also need to make reports on achievements annually. So not only biannually as governance regulation prescribes. So this is a continuous process, and our Ministry of Economy and Sustainable Development has a special unit called National Energy Efficiency Coordination Authority. I think Ivana mentioned this morning 1 or 2 people only working, 1.5 people working on this matter. As said, we are using IT platform for this is actually database of implemented energy efficiency projects in Croatia, which is also a calculation tool for determining energy savings, final energy savings, primary energy savings, CO2 savings, and it also calculates cumulative energy savings depending on lifetime of measure, of course. The dominant user of this system is Energy Efficiency Fund, because Energy Efficiency Fund in Croatia dominantly provides the grants for energy efficiency projects. So if someone received the grant for their energy efficiency investment, it must be entered into this system. And currently, so since 2015, we are using this system. We have more than 26,000 entries into the system. So this is roughly also the number of energy efficiency projects. But as I said, another tool that we are using is a tool for monitoring energy consumption in public sector. So according to our legislation, public sector entities needs to nominate person responsible for energy management within that institutions, for instance, within a certain ministry. That person needs to be educated for energy management, and this is provided by our National Real Estate Agency. It's a public agency responsible for this whole energy efficiency in the public sector, and they are obligated to use energy management information system to enter data on their energy consumption. So the system started with, this poor person entering data from energy bills into this system. That's how it started. But it evolved over these years, and now in many cases we have remote meter readings, or we have contracts with energy supplier or distribution system operator to enter data automatically into this system. Additionally, if the public sector building or entity receives a grant for energy renovation, the obligatory measure is to install remote meter readings, so that we have the connection to this system. So what can you find in this framework that I just explained? We actually do have a lot of data, but we still scratched on the surface in analyzing this data. So just a few examples. This is an example of renovated public building. It's a huge hospital in coastal area. And you can see here that many energy efficiency actions or measures were implemented in this building complex. It's not a one building; it's a building complex. And this table shows you the differences. The differences that we have in energy savings. So within energy audit, the detailed energy audit, the baseline energy consumption was determined, and the calculated and the design savings are determined by design engineers in the design documentation for this building. And you see that they are 8.5 gigawatt hours were estimated, were designed. In a year after the renovation, metered energy consumption, so the difference before and after, and corrected to climate to heating degree day, was smaller, as you can see, 6.3, and reported with use of bottom-up methods prescribed in that IT systems. They're overestimated, as you can see. You all know the equation used. So it was 9.5. Please just see that this is the method for so-called integral building renovation. The origin is from European Commission recommendations back in, I don't know which year, 2008-9. And when you enter only this data, you practically disregard all the measures that we're implementing, like public lighting, and still you have overestimated energy savings. Example number one. So we in Energy Institute, we wanted to see, we wanted to see what we will have on our building. So we are preparing our renovation of our building, and we did dynamic simulations of packages of measures. And just to show you the results, when we use the first column, green is energy savings. Sorry, it's in Croatia. So with dynamic simulations of all systems in the building, we get the highest savings. But in this case, when we use that equation, that method, we have this savings when we use our project data, and this savings when we use reference data prescribed by the regulations. So again, this is the relevant difference. We still need to renovate our buildings, so we will see what metered savings are saying. Another example is public lighting, because in this EMIS, in this system, we actually do have real data gathered from distribution system operator for public lighting systems. So we know exact consumption of electricity. We made comparisons between, I'm sorry, not 37, but 35 projects of renovated public lighting systems, and this is the If you're interested, I can tell you how. But this is the results between EMIS savings and SMIF savings, meaning EMIS are metered, and bottom-up methods entered into that other system are 18% higher, and this is per project, differences per project, whereas yellow is bottom-up method and blue is metered savings. Then my favorite, but this is just to share my frustration with you, is information measures, because I know we are and even here today we are talking about behavioral measures, and they are in the focus, and I agree, and nice. But when we come to calculation of savings, we get this. We get that actually just sending out leaflets via newspapers to consumers, with using some reference values of energy saving factors from previous works that have been done, are equal to replacement of 10 huge electric motors in one industrial facility, and I just can't stomach that, really. Yeah. So this is to briefly conclude. We are lucky that we have some metered data. We are not in the phase to bring hard conclusions yet, because we need more analysis. But examples are showing that it is really necessary to use meter data to refine methodologies and reference value within methodologies. And in behavioral measure, this is call cry for help. Let's do another project with new research to get more realistic savings from these measures. Thank you, and sorry for the time.
Thank you very much. This was an eye-opening look on deemed savings. I really like your mandatory energy management system in the public buildings. It's it's an inspiration for me, and I would like to maybe to ask you about it. I can imagine that it was not easy to really implement this system in the public administration. And what share of the buildings are actually under this system?
Yeah, it's I cannot say exact share, but the story about this obligation of public sector goes back in 2005, I think. Something like that. So almost 20 years of trying to mobilize public sector to do it. Before we became a member state, there was actually UNDP involvement here, and we started as a pilot project. They were successful, and then we entered it into legislation. Still, it's in legislation. Not everyone is respecting that, but I think regional authorities and cities in Croatia are quite good, but we have 500 small municipalities, and this is another issue that needs to be solved.
Okay, thank you very much. And to the last presentation of the first panel, please, Aidan, the floor is yours.
Very much. Hi everyone, my name is Aidan Condell and I'm with the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland. Specifically, I work in the EOS team, so the Energy Efficiency Obligation Scheme, and I oversee the evaluation and monitoring of non-residential energy savings. So my presentation will more so focus on our learnings there and kind of where we're heading. So I'll just start off with a quick introduction to Ireland's energy obligation scheme and how it works. And I'll then go through our platform for monitoring energy savings, how we evaluate non-residential savings, and then have a quick look at our scaled versus metered savings approaches, and then have a look at two specific examples as well. So Ireland's energy obligation scheme has been in place since 2014 and currently accounts for 60% of the Article 7 target. Its overall target is divided into three sectors, so it targets energy poverty, residential, and then cross-sectoral. Cross-sectoral is the largest sector there. It encompasses non-residential energy savings, transport savings, and deemed domestic savings that don't meet the residential criteria. So it's quite a large portion of the EOS scheme. How we monitor savings within EOS, we have an online database for managing energy credits, or energy credit management system, which is ECMS. So it's an online database where savings are uploaded and tracked for EOS, and domestic and non-domestic SEAI grant schemes are also included in it also. So the savings that are uploaded are classified by the obligated party, the sector which they fall under, the energy savings category and measure, and the obligation period in which they fall. So ECMS basically supports the monitoring of policy interaction as it tracks the energy savings for individual homes and businesses across EOS and domestic and non-domestic grant schemes. So essentially what this allows us to do is to monitor and track savings with reference to the home or business that they come from, and it allows us to avoid double count of savings. So each obligated party has access to ECMS, and they can track their uploads as well as their progress towards their target. It also allows us to effectively monitor the progress towards targets and the breakdown of energy savings, as well as manage exchanges in energy savings between obligated parties. So in terms of the evaluation of energy savings then, for this we have PEP, which is our project evaluation platform. Obviously, again, this is specific to non-residential savings. So after works have been completed in a non-residential project and savings have been quantified, the obligated parties notify SEAI by means of a non-residential energy credit application, or an NREC. So this is all done through the project evaluation platform. This application contains details on the obligated party and the client organisation or the beneficiary of the project, summary and technical details, calculation method, and the measurement and verification method used, annual energy savings and the attribution of savings by technology, and the materiality of the contribution of the energy supplier, along with a signed declaration from the client verifying this materiality. There's also any other supporting document relevant to individual projects included as well. So after the submission of the project to PEP, it undergoes an evaluation process. PEP essentially manages this and it tracks the project through the evaluation process and notifies the applicants as it moves. Once the project is approved on PEP, it automatically moves straight over to ECMS and counts towards the obligated party's target. So in terms of the evaluation process then, what we look for when we get projects in under EOS, all projects are evaluated in full. They all receive a desktop audit, which looks to make sure that the application has been completed correctly and that the relevant supporting document has been included. It also then completes a risk assessment on the project, and this risk assessment is essentially designed to select the most appropriate portion of projects for a further detailed evaluation. So this detailed evaluation looks in depth at the project with respect to the EOS requirements, and also looks at the evaluation, looks at the measurement and verification method that has been chosen for this project. We also complete site inspections on a portion of the projects, and we undergo a sign-off procedure once the evaluation is complete. This is just a quick overview of the risk assessment process. So when we get an application in, essentially what we look at is the size with respect to the obligated party's target, the technology used, the complexity, the previous inspection record of that obligated party, the calculation method used, and the measurement and verification report, essentially the quality of the report that's been submitted. But this all contributes to giving it a risk score, which determines the evaluation route. Just to kind of give you a quick overview here, this is essentially how a project progresses through our evaluation route. So as you can see, if it does not require further evaluation, goes straight to ECMS. And at any stage there, we can revert back to the applicant to discuss the project with them, ask them for additional information, or maybe request that they correct some of the details that have been entered. So looking then at scaled and metered savings within EOS, so kind of going on the basis here of the Annex 5 definitions, there are 3 appropriate savings types to Ireland's cross-sectoral target, and only 2 of these are relevant to non-residential savings. So we have metered savings and scale savings. So metered savings are essentially full measurement and verification, as defined by standards such as ISO 50015 and IPMDP. And then we have our scale savings methodologies, which we basically introduced to eliminate some of the financial burden of measurement and verification for small projects. So go into these in detail here. So for metered savings, SEAI has 2 requirements for measurement and verification. They're outlined there, but essentially what we look for is that they're aligned with IPMDP or ISO 50015 to ensure that the quality is there. Other than that, there are no specific requirements, but we have developed a guidance document for obligated parties, which outlines the structure of the report and what should be included and considered when completing a measurement verification report. In terms of scale savings then, so there are a number of tools available that SEAI have developed in order to mitigate the burden of full measurement verification for small projects. So these are our standardized approaches, and they're applicable to certain project types that are common in the non-residential sector. So they require the collection of project-specific data, which is why we don't class them as deemed savings. The accuracy of these tools has been verified by referencing full measurement and verification of similar or like projects. And I suppose the goal of these standardized calculation tools is essentially to bring small or smaller non-residential saving projects into the scope of EOS support, i.e. helping SMEs to basically benefit from the EOS supports that are there. So we're going to look at 2 examples here, which is our lighting calculator and our pipe insulation calculator. So for lighting upgrade projects, we've developed a calculator which is required for use if savings aren't measured and verified for a lighting project. This tool essentially requires the user to input specifications for the existing lighting fixtures and the replacement lighting fixtures. It also contains a database in the backhand, which they can use to identify the site activity and the zone activity within that site and determine usage hours from this. We've developed guidance along with this tool on its specific use and also guidance on the completion of lighting upgrade projects as a whole. Just to give you a kind of a feel for, I suppose, the impact of this in 2022, the improved viability of lighting projects was demonstrated. We had almost 50 projects submitted through our NREC applications, covering over 300 sites, and the majority of which were small. And I suppose our view here is that if full measurement and verification was required, those small sites wouldn't have engaged with this, it wouldn't have been viable. And in all, these accounted for 5% of our non-residential savings in 2022. Just a quick look at the tool here. So essentially the user could pick from the site activity, which essentially covers all non-residential sites. They can input usage hours as they've measured them, or they can select from the low, medium, high option and submit a supporting document to back this up. They can also then select the individual zone activities for a site and then input the specifications for the lighting fixtures before and then do the same again after. And the tool will calculate the savings for them. The tool is obviously, as you can see, an Excel sheet and has the capability to handle up to 30 sites. It'll then sum up the savings for all of these sites and give you an overall savings value for the project. So this is the value that's submitted on the NREC applications, and then we will also have a breakdown of the individual sites as they go to ECMS. Looking then at our pipe installation tool, so I suppose this is a fresher example. The lighting tool has been in place for a couple of years, but this was developed earlier this year. Essentially, again, it's targeting, I suppose, SMEs. And when we look at our SMEs, we typically see that some of their main usage is in lighting and heat. So these are kind of measures to help them identify some energy savings in small businesses. And so again, the tool requires some basic input parameters for the thermal system, which is being upgraded. It uses essentially a pipe group format where the input data defines a different pipe group, and the tool will calculate the savings for each individual pipe group based on the heat loss before and after installation. Once again, we've developed guidance on this, and just to note, all these tools, if you are interested, are available on the SEAI website along with guidance. Just a quick look at the tool then. There are 12 input parameters for the pipe installation tool. Because these are common throughout all projects, we got great feedback from our obligated parties here, because they know even before visiting a site or engaging with a company that they know exactly what they have to measure when they get there. So yeah, it calculates essentially before and after installation based on heat loss, and again it can handle 25 different pipe groups, so it can handle quite large pipe installation projects designed for SMEs, but again this can be used for large industry lagging projects as well. It's designed also to be submitted with some supporting documentation, so before and after images, to basically verify the savings that were specified using the tool. And as I said, this was developed earlier this year, so this is kind of our newest savings opportunity that we've identified. We're hoping throughout this year to get some pipe installation projects in and see if it increases the viability of these projects for small and medium enterprises in particular. In terms of new savings opportunities as a whole, we're constantly engaging with our obligated parties to try and identify opportunities such as this. This tool came about on the back of recommendations from our obligated parties to develop a standardised method for them to calculate savings from these projects. And yeah, with that in mind, there is always, I suppose, the scope for further development in the future as we progress through this. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you, Aidan. I think that this was a very nice piece of streamlining of the calculations. I think, inspire in these methods. So now the question and answer session, or the brief discussion, is the only thing that is between us and the coffee break, which I guess that all of us need somehow. So are there any questions online? No, not so far. Okay, so now it's your choice. Now it's your chance to ask our great panelists a question or two. Okay, please.
Hi everyone, this is famous and Slovakia on my screen. I wonder about the savings approach. Definitely makes more sense to be accurate with what we measure. But I wonder, since we're in perhaps the early phase of this, how do you see this being received by other parts of the policy system, obligated parties, and so on? What are the first reactions?
Which would you like to ask first? Okay.
Yeah, so obviously we've had, as I said, we've had an obligation scheme since 2014. So it's not new to obligated parties. I think in the last couple of years, sorry, first of all, just to introduce, I'm only working under SEAI for the last about 8 months or so, so I can't speak for previous years, but I know it has been in place for a few years. For ourselves, I suppose, the focus on full measurement and verification in accordance with the standards. We view it as just it's, I suppose, the most accurate approach. Obviously, I suppose, as you're getting at there, it does introduce some difficulties. It does bring the viability of projects into question, especially if they're small. But I think, I suppose, we're setting ourselves on a pathway to bring measurement and verification into the forefront as we move through to 2030, as we get away from kind of, I suppose, maybe shallow measures or low-hanging fruit, if you will. We look for our obligated parties to kind of be as accurate as they can with the energy savings. We, at the moment, are on track to reach our targets for this year, which is great. And obviously, we use measurement and verification in the mind that what we are submitting and reporting at the end of each year is extremely accurate, or as accurate as we can be. So I suppose that's kind of the way we've drifted away from deemed savings. There are still some deemed savings available for ourselves for the obligated parties, but they're kind of more designed around shallower, less risky projects. For the non-residential ones, focusing on big projects, we definitely push for M&V all the time. I don't know if you want to add anything from here.
Yeah, it's a bit different answer because in Croatia we will start with metered savings for alternative measures, not within the obligation scheme. As I told you, we already started with public lighting. Because we do have data and we want to refine methods, and we also have one pilot now doing metering in multi-apartment buildings that have received grants for energy renovation. I think it's important because if you overestimate savings with calculation methods, you are losing trust. So I think this is indeed these areas. So public sector, because we can, and for citizens, I think it's important not maybe use metered savings as a obligatory way to determine savings, but you use this data to refine deemed savings. This is it. And for energy efficiency obligation scheme, yeah, we actually started with that only in 2019. It's we still need to see what happens, especially because many things happens with these information measures.
I can see the question in the back, and then no.
So you hear me? So I think I have a couple of questions for Vesna. I'm pronouncing correctly.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
I'm going to straightforward. So show strong energy performance gap so far it's not new, and yeah, I would like at least a little bit to purchase the data already, because I think it was quite nice to see. And you also mentioned another gap, the nuclear measurements. So I was wondering, how do you explain both gaps and their connection for the student experience?
Well, I'm not sure how to answer your question. So just to be maybe more specific, for public lighting, we are continuing. We know exactly what public lighting is. We have a definition, and it's different from external lighting. So it's completely into the public sector. So we are going completely to metered savings in this part. In this second part, for instance, for buildings, what we need is detailed analysis, like we did for everything for public buildings, to come to some conclusions. I show you just one example. We have several examples more in depth, but we need detailed analysis to come to conclusions. And as for information measures, yeah, think we will keep them. We will keep them as eligible measure within energy efficiency obligation scheme. We just see that there are two needs. First, to better define what is eligible information measure. I strongly believe that measures like sending out leaflets to customers and putting brochures in newspaper is not eligible energy efficiency measure within this strong system. It's fine, okay, we can do it, NGOs can do it, but not within energy efficiency obligation scheme. So first, to properly define what eligible information or behavioral measure is, and second, to put money into research to come to the actual conclusions about effectiveness of these measures. You saw in my presentation, I put 0.25% as energy saving factor. And this is actually the only relevant source that we could found. It's from multi projects. It's very valuable because you can say that's it, but it was like 10 years ago projects or even backwards. So more analysis and more research, and unfortunately the only source for this kind of research we have from LIFE project or Horizon, because authorities don't really think that's an issue. Sorry for the long answer.
No problem. I saw the question here from Filippo, and then maybe one or two questions from the back side. I see you. I'm afraid we will not be able to answer or pose all the questions. You can certainly leave it on the coffee breaks and on lunch and ask informally, more informally. But please, Filippo.
Yeah, thank you very much. I have actually a very quick question regarding the role of the DSO, the system operator in the data sharing process. As we know, the DSO is a regulated player, so it can really commercialize this service. So what are the triggers that perhaps can be, used from other stakeholders to get data from the DSO?
Well, it's quite simple answer, because it's in our energy efficiency law. It is prescribed that distribution system operator is obligated to deliver data to EMIS, of course, with the permission from the public sector. So it's a public sector that's their data. Let's say so. It's a quite simple loop. They're just delivering data, nothing else. With the permission of data owner, if we can say it like that.
Yeah, I guess the complexity is more when you go the private.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's more for audits for companies, thresholds, but in public sector it's quite easy. Yeah.
Okay, does the mic work? No, it doesn't.
Question to Vesna.
Three more guys here.
Yeah, well, a quick question.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that energy efficiency obligations regarding the obligated parties can transfer their energy savings, I suppose, from year to year, or depending on the lifetime of the energy efficiency measure, because this is, I think, the key issue here. Depending on the energy efficiency measure, they can transfer the energy efficiency savings, let's say from 2018 to, let's say, 2023. Is that the case?
No.
No.
The strict division is made between period until end of 2020 and from 2021 onwards. So everything that happens before end of 2020 is forgotten. That's a previous period. Yeah, and everything that is accountable now is starting from 2021. It must be implemented in 2021. But yes, you're right. This transfer of savings is possible. But that's banking and borrowing according to EED. I think 3 years backwards and 4 years forward. That's it. That's transposed to legislation. So yes, they can use it. They can also sell energy savings to other obligated parties, and obligated parties can also buy from third parties. So it's
Okay, and that would be it. We have managed to go through this panel with mics turned off, but anyway, it worked. I hope that you heard. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for the answers. Thank you to all of your presentations.